Hello, and welcome back to our video series highlighting catastrophic impairment. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Roger Foisy, and I am the principal lawyer at Foisy and Associates, a personal injury law firm in Ontario. Today we'll be looking at the impairment criteria that is required to be met to be considered catastrophically impaired. I'm joined here today with my colleagues, Harpreet Sidhu and Rusald Laloshi. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good to see you again.
All right, so maybe let's get started, Harpreet, and remind everybody what the definition of catastrophic impairment actually is.
Yep. Catastrophic impairment, it's a legal definition that's been established by the Statutory Accident Benefits Schedule. It's not any sort of a medical diagnosis by any means. It's actually a designation that's made by your insurance company.
Right, and it is reliant upon medical opinions, but it is not a medical diagnosis of any sort.
So if it's not a diagnosis, then who is going to be making this medical opinion to assist us with catastrophic impairment?
Right, so there's going to be numerous examinations that may be completed depending on every individual's case. There are physical diagnoses that would be utilized, and then there are mental and behavioral diagnoses as well that will be utilized, and a combination of the two could also lead to catastrophic impairment. So it's not just one specific type of injury, but it can be a combination. Certainly there can be certain injuries that on their own would be able to get somebody catastrophic, such as quadriplegia or certain types of other serious impairments.
And I understand that from the Statutory Accident Benefit Schedule, which actually our insureds actually have to go to understand whether or not they're going to be catastrophically impaired. But today, I think for our viewers, it would be better if we actually looked at those criterion that are actually more difficult to achieve. So I understand criterion 1, 2, and 3, they deal more with the whole person impairments, quadriplegia, paraplegia, loss of use, loss of vision. And then, of course, the more serious brain injury cases, either adult or pediatric, those are a little bit easier to understand. But I think what you were getting at beginning, where we're looking at criterion 6 is the physical, 7 is a combined, and 8 is the actual mental behavioral. Let's break those down a bit. Maybe, Harpreet, you can start with explaining to us the physical aspect, which is known as the criterion 6.
Right. So the physical aspect, it looks at physical injuries that you've suffered as a result of a motor vehicle accident. So, for example, somebody that might have hurt their right arm and they've lost complete function of that arm. That would be 100% loss of function, which, according to the American Medical Association's guides to a permanent impairment, or the AMA guides as we call them, that would come up as a 40% whole person impairment. And if taking all of your physical impairments together, let's say it's your arm, your lower extremities, taking all of them together, if that amounts to at least 55% whole person impairment, then you are considered catastrophically impaired. And if your insurance company agrees with this, then that insurance company will designate you catastrophic.
So when you say physical, do we actually mean physical parts of your body? What about things like sleep and intimacy, things of that nature? Are those things rated as well?
Certainly, there are a number of those injuries as well that are looked at, including sleep, including taste, vision, loss of the ability to reproduce or sexual function. There are different ratings that are provided for each bodily function, and specialists are going to be required in their opinions under each different criteria. Certainly, there are neurological injuries, there are nerve endings that could be damaged throughout your body because of this accident, and each different injury will require a different rating.
Yeah, for sure it requires you to dig a little bit deeper. It's not as simple as, a fracture to an arm or a leg. Like Russell mentioned, neurological issues are also encompassed. So a lot of the times people that suffer severe back injuries, they may experience issues with incontinence, bladder or bowel. Those will also be captured in criteria 6.
And there's always a lot of discussion around pain. And how do we actually rate pain? Is this method of catastrophic determination looking at the amount of pain or the severity of your pain? How is that factored in?
Well, its pain is not quite factored in, except insofar as it may impact your mental health. So it's important to understand that under the American Medical Association's guides to a permanent impairment, pain is not a component that is rated. What is rated is function. So each area that is evaluated, the key component that is looked at is how much is the person functioning or not functioning because of the accident and because of the injuries that the accident may have resulted in. So it is really a misperception and a misconception that pain is the contributing factor to whether or not you are catastrophically impaired.
So important for our viewers to understand the reason why we explain to them when they go and see their medical professionals that they discuss what their loss of function is for this reason in particular. Describing pain really doesn't give us a rating. It's your ability to actually do something or you're unable to do it. And that's where the function piece comes in. That's very good information. Now let's move to the mental piece. We talked about the mental behavioral. How does that get rated in this? And I understand we've told the viewers already Criterion 8 is what we're doing when we're taking a look at mental behavioral. So maybe give us a better explanation of mental behavioral, either Harpreet or Rusald.
Sure. Criteria A, mental behavioral, from a mental behavioral perspective, it takes a look at your ability to function or inability to function in 4 different categories, 4 different aspects. The first is, while there's no particular order, activities of daily living, or we refer to it as ADLs for short. ADLs looks at your daily activities that you perform on a day-to-day basis that maybe you take for granted, you don't really think about. Driving, going to the store, getting up and brushing your teeth, taking care of yourself, taking a shower, cleaning your home, all of these daily activities, paying your bills, something as simple as that. It considers your ability to function in that area, but not just function, but be independent in how you are performing those tasks or not performing those tasks. Another category is social functioning. Social functioning looks at your ability to do exactly that, function in social settings, social environments. If you, for example, go to a grocery store and let's say you can't find something there, we've all been there. Naturally, we might just simply ask a store clerk, where can I find this? A person that has an impediment or an impairment in social functioning, they may actually avoid that at all costs, because they are not able to function in social settings. They may try to problem solve themselves and find it, and if they don't find it, they just may leave.
And it's easy to see how someone with a mental behavioral disorder of that severity could impact their life. It could impact their relationships with their family. It could impact their relationships with their relatives, with friends, with colleagues at work. And so that's how the American guides dictate how a person's ratings will be categorized. And each of the categories will be rated between 1 to 5, with 1 being no impairment caused by the accident and 5 being an extreme impairment caused by the accident.
And what is it that you need in an effort to be able to show or demonstrate that you are catastrophically impaired when looking in those 5 specific criterion under activities of daily living, social functioning?
So it is case specific. It does depend on when your accident happened, which section which version of the law will capture your particular situation. In the current section of in the current version of the statutory accident benefit schedule, the right criteria would be 3 class 4 impairments or 1 class 5 impairment. Class 5 impairment essentially means that you have a mental or behavioral disorder that precludes useful functioning. And again, it's key to remember the language, useful functioning. It's not about I'm unable to function at all. It's whether you can complete important aspects of your day-to-day needs and self-care. There are other categories, as Harpreet was mentioning, concentration, persistence, and pace, and adaptation. And I'll let Harpreet maybe just go into those a little bit more.
For sure. Concentration, persistence, and pace, it refers to not only your ability to concentrate on a lot of those various tasks I mentioned under ADLs, it also refers to your ability to be able to persist and complete those tasks. So you might think to yourself, and we hear it a lot from clients, I can't be impaired in my ADLs because I do shower, or I do vacuum, or I do clean my home. But when you actually dig deeper and speak to your clients, you may learn that, or we learn speaking to our clients, that those tasks are only being completed when they're being nudged or pushed by their family. Their family notices, hey, you haven't showered in a couple of days, or hey, did you brush your teeth this morning? That's not independence. That's a person that is struggling to motivate themselves to initiate those tasks. So, or you may be somebody that does find the motivation to initiate a task, like, let's say, vacuuming your home or cleaning your home, but you don't have the persistence to be able to complete that task. And that's where concentration, persistence, and pace comes in. And the last category is adaptation, or adaptation to work-like settings, which considers all aspects of activities of daily living, social functioning, but also your ability to adapt to stressful circumstances. So it doesn't just consider whether you're working or not. And you could be a person that is unable to work, but that may not guarantee that you are completely or you're significantly impeded from social functioning in adaptation, which is that class 4 you just mentioned. It looks at your ability to adapt to stressful circumstances. So at work, there's many different areas of our lives at work where we are forced to adapt to different changes, different circumstances. The average person can adapt to them. A person that has an impediment or impairment in that area is not able to adapt to those circumstances, much less not even adapt to circumstances like that, but can they even show up to work? And maybe they can show up tomorrow, but can they show up every single day? Adaptation captures that.
Very interesting.
It is a holistic view of a person's function. It's not a specific task or specific activity. It is taking a look at all different aspects of their daily function and what was important to them before the accident and what they're currently functioning like. And that's what the medical professionals will look at. They will provide an opinion, and the insurance company will most of the time retain, unfortunately, their own experts. And if those experts also agree, then the insurance company will accept that your impairments are catastrophic.
Okay. And so what we described initially was physical, criterion 6, whether or not you meet a complete inability, 55% impairment. On the mental behavioral side, if you meet a 3 class 4s or 1 class 5, that gets you catastrophic. Now let's explain to our viewers, what about this combined approach that we understand to be a criterion 7? How do we end up getting somebody catastrophically impaired if they've got certain amount of physical, certain amount of mental behavioral? We combine that to get them catastrophically impaired. Maybe somebody can jump into that.
That's right, and I think the same cutoff is used. It's again 55% of a whole person that needs to be impaired. That is described in the SABs. But once again, it is not as cookie cutter as it may seem. It's not as simple, and it depends on the date of the accident and the version of the legislation that needs to be used is dictated by the date of your loss. I think it's important to remember that it's not that we add impairments. It's not that the impairment ratings under one criteria with another criteria are just simply added together as if it's arithmetic. It's more of a combination. So it's more of a merging of the impairments and finding, based on what the guides dictates, how much is the person's resulting impairment.
So how is it then when you're saying there are two different methods of doing it, and you were sort of using the date of loss as June 1, 2016, if your accident is before June 1, 2016, and then if your accident is after? So explain to the viewers how that changes in terms of computation.
Correct. So before June 1st of 2016, the guides of the fourth edition of the American Medical Association's guides to a permanent impairment would be utilized, and the person's mental and behavioral impairment ratings would be sort of transferred into a whole person impairment. Once you have that percentage, then you can combine that with the impairment ratings that have been assigned by the other physical impairment ratings. And as a combination occurs between these different impairments, then the importance is whether or not it pierces the 55% threshold. Now, if your injury is after June 1st of 2016, then the impairments that will be, the guides that will be used is the sixth edition, which is a more updated version of the guides. However, it instructs medical professionals to use a different method to computate the percentage assigned. So it looks at three different categories. It rates those independently, finds a median percentage, and then that percentage gets transferred into a whole person impairment. It is all quite complicated, of course, and it requires a lot of scrutiny, a lot of understanding and review. A lot of that is obviously the medical assessor's role. However, experienced legal counsel and professionals are able to review those computations and provide sort of feedback and more guidance to the insurance company, as well as if a dispute proceeds to a tribunal, those professionals will need to be explaining these impairment ratings and whether they were computed accurately.
Yes, and that's a whole new topic of conversation when we're talking about License Appeal Tribunal that we will bring back to our viewers on another time. Thank you, gentlemen. This was great information for our viewers. And I'd like to remind everybody out there, this is a real complicated topic and the reason why people go to lawyers in order to get some assistance. I'd like to remind you that if you have any questions, concerns you'd like to raise with us, please reach us at injurylawyercanada.com. We'd be happy to assist you. And remember, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.